Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stew with JT Brew. I have my co-host Bryan Toast Clark here. We're gonna go around the ice in the NHL tonight and just give you a little heads up on what's happening. Stick with us. You're in the stew.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping brew, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
So we've got some different topics kind of lined up for this evening. Let's just jump into it. NHL Around the Ice. Let's start things off talking 2018 Canadian World Juniors scandal. Things have gotten a little dicey here. We've kind of been waiting to hear about this for a while, what was going to happen with it, what more information was going to come out. And now we've got some stuff happening. 5 members have been definitely taken a leave of absence from their respective teams. They've been asked to surrender to police to face sexual assault charges. This is a bad situation all around. We're hoping they would figure this out and kind of figure out what guys were part of it, what were not. As you know, the whole team was under investigation. Now they're down to 5 specific players. Let's talk just briefly about kind of what's going on here.
Yeah, JT, I really hate to kind of bring this up on the podcast, but if we're going to be talking about anything NHL and what's important, this has to be kind of at the forefront. So we'll briefly, we'll talk about it here briefly, and we'll move on to the next topic. But right now, five individual players have been, like you said, taken indefinite leaves of absences and have been asked to turn themselves into police of what's been an investigation for about 5 years now. And so it's finally actually come to a head. The NHL has done enough of an investigation to figure out that, you know what, they've gathered enough where they need to turn themselves in and they actually need to be, face these charges. So there's one player's significance on here from a fantasy and from an NHL perspective, and the other ones aren't so much. But New Jersey, Michael McLeod and Cal Foote. Interesting enough, New Jersey did not cite any reason for their departures, other than to say they were, they would be taking an indefinite leave of absence. Calgary Flames, young, I'd say up and comer, Dylan Dubé. They cited mental health, the reason for his departure. So all of this is a little odd in itself. Just say he's taking a leave of absence. I'm not really sure why they actually came up with a mental health reason for his departure, considering he is under this investigation. But the one that is really of the most importance, really, if there is a player of most importance here from a fantasy perspective, and that's what we have, is we have a fantasy hockey podcast here we'd like to talk about. And it's Carter Hart, the goalie for Philadelphia Flyers. They cited personal reasons for his departure. So it'll be interesting to see how this actually plays out. There's no doubt they're going to take this very seriously. They've already done. I am shocked that it's taken 5 years to get to this point where they're finally coming to this conclusion that this could be a criminal charge. But the fantasy implications for this is that Carter Hart will no longer be in goal for Philadelphia, and it'll be the newcomer Urson will actually be in goal. And really, Urson's been doing a pretty good job this year. He did actually cost me and my brother Gail a little bit of money last night. We bet him over on the saves, and that screwed us. But nevertheless, Urson's done a really good job. So he'll be getting the majority, if not all, the starts while Carter Hart is out. And it's too bad because Philadelphia right now, they're having a great season, an absolute great season.
They've looked fantastic. We talked about it in previous podcasts that they've been one of the bright spots, one of the teams we didn't necessarily see coming. We knew they had a lot of young talent, but Hart had some up and down years the last couple of years in goal. He finally seemed like he had got back on the right track to start this season, and then something like this comes about and kind of derails it. We'll see if the Flyers can kind of hold down the fort with him gone now.
Yeah, hey JT, before we get into our next topic here, I want to mention that the Florida Panthers they're rolling right now, guys. They're up 3-0 on Arizona right now. 5 minutes into the second period, they scored their 4th goal. Your guy Matthew Tkachuk has already got 2 goals and an assist, through 25 minutes of play. And of course, Reinhardt has another one. We'll talk about Reinhardt here in a bit, but man, Ford is looking dangerous.
I need it. My team has been on a slump here of late, scoring wise, so I can use all the points I get. Topic number 2 for this evening, we're going to talk about your Chicago Blackhawks. We were just talking about it. I got a Chicago Blackhawks glass for Christmas, even though I'm a Red Wings fan. Now they're in different divisions. We feel like we can kind of root for both of them. So the Blackhawks have signed 3 players. Connor Bedard, as everybody knows, is kind of the big news, still out with that injury, and kind of the question was, what were the Blackhawks going to do without him, as he's kind of been really the face of the team and every reason to watch them this year. But they got 3 players signed, 2-year contract extensions. Toast, let's get into these guys, who they signed and what does it kind of mean for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, so I'll mention the signings first, and I won't only mention this because I'm a Blackhawks fan and I'm pretty excited about it. Plus, it is pretty big news for a team that's really in a rebuild, like we said. So that they made 3 signings here in the last week. Nick Foligno, they gave him a 2-year extension, so he's going to be here through the 25-26 season at a $4.5 million AAV. Now, a lot of people will realize from a fantasy perspective, he only has value, and none of these guys really have value unless you're in the deepest of leagues, the 14 to 18 team leagues, and maybe even dynasty leagues. Nick Foligno, I believe, will be the de facto captain, and he will be the captain for the Chicago Blackhawks next year, and he'll be basically keeping that seat warm until Connor Bedard's actually ready to take the captaincy, which really, quite frankly, he probably is ready to do that now. But Foligno was a huge get, JT, for the Hawks. They had that 2-year extension. Again, they're in that rebuild. They actually want to have that leadership in the locker room, and he has really taken that leadership role and ran with it. Great signing for the Hawks.
The next guy on the list, Jason Dickinson, 2 years, 2-year extension for him as well. Very similar terms, $4.25 million AAV through the 25-26 season. And then he's the guy that maybe people don't know as well about. And then they also resigned the old Red Wings player, the goalie, a guy me and you've talked about a lot lately, as he's played really well so far, especially if you have him in fantasy and you don't take losses as a huge negative in points. He's actually been pretty solid.
Yeah, the great thing about the Jason Dickinson signing, JT, in addition to Nick Foligno, is when you are good on his team, when his team gets good, those are your third-line players. Those are your third-line role players that are actually just going to – you may pit them up against the first-liners or the other ones and actually frustrate them, wear them out a little bit. They battle. They play tough in the corners. Jason Dickinson, again, as you said, through the 25-26 season at 4.25 AAV. And you mentioned, and I know why you didn't mention his name, JT, because you were afraid you're going to butcher his last name. I know, but you know what?
I've done it ever since he was a Red Wing. I butchered his name.
But you just needed to continue to try. It's Peter Mrazek, and Mrazek's been nothing spectacular. Nothing less than spectacular for the Hawks this year. The Hawks are a bad team. Mrazek actually has well over a 900 save percentage. He's got a 935 save percentage, if I remember right, they said, in the last 5 games. And, man, he is keeping him in every single game. He's probably resurrected his career. He's having the best season of his career, and they reward him with another 2-year extension to the 25-26 season at $4.25 million AAV. So, JT, what's all that mean, right? So let me tell the listeners kind of why I want to talk about this. There are roster players right now signed through the 25-26 season besides those 3, Bedard on his entry-level contract, Kevin Korchinski, the young defensive star, on his entry-level contract, Seth Jones, a 29-year-old, at $9.5 million AAV through the 29-30 season, signed by the previous general manager regime, and then Connor Murphy, also signed by the previous regime, 30-year-old at $4.4 million AAV through 25-26. So if you look at that right there, base players on the roster right now, you actually have 6 players that are actually going that are signed here for the next 2 seasons, for that 25-26 season. That is it. They have minor league players actually signed through the 25-26 season. You got Paul Ludwinski, 39th overall pick in a 2022 draft. Gavin Hayes in a 2022 draft is 66 overall. And then you got Colton Dock, Kirby's brother, who actually didn't last long in Chicago, the 62nd overall pick in 2021. And then you got Nolan Allen, Ethan Del Mastro, and then the prize goalie Drew Comesso at 46 overall in 2020. So what does all of that actually mean right now? I think at the end of 25-26, the Blackhawks are actually tipped their hand right now, JT. They're telling everybody we're done with the rebuild at that point. There is only about $30 million in salary committed during that 25-26 season already, with only one player committed after that, and that's Seth Jones. The Hawks are going to be super active. I'm thinking next year during the trade deadline, and then after next year in the free agency heading into the 25-26 season. I think that'll be good. During the 25-26 season, we're going to be really, really good, and all goes well. They're ready to compete for cups for the next 7-8 years, starting at 26, 27, and beyond. So lots. I know it doesn't sound like a whole lot with the Hawks and those 3 signings, and they're small signings, but nevertheless, that does tip their hand and show where their plans at and what they think their timeline's looking like.
Yeah, and with Connor Bedard, you got to assume they're like, hey, this gives him 2 years to really kind of mature, break out. Who we've already seen, he's been spectacular at the beginning of the year before the injury, but now that sets them up to go in and actually sign some huge names, get some big free agent signings, do some stuff where he's kind of built himself, and then this team, like you said, in 2 years is ready to actually rock and start taking off. And so, to me, if you're a Blackhawks fan, you like to see this. You can see where they're going with everything, and you can like, hey, there is a plan in place. They're not just freewheeling; they do know what they're doing. And for me, as a fan of a team, at least I know the losses are getting me somewhere. We're not just taking losses to take losses. They know what the plan is, and they know where they're going. And to me, that definitely gives a fan base, something to look forward to and count on, while you're losing the next couple of years.
They're playing tough hockey right now. We talked about that last time on the podcast, JT. I mean, they went into Vancouver a couple of nights ago and actually only lost 2-0. Like, hey, all of the, only lost 2-0. Did you see this roster on this Hawks team? They don't have anybody. They have no one.
And they gave up those goals like right away.
Early.
I mean, they were early, and then they shut them down the rest of the way. I had a same game parlay that I felt real good about, and after those first 2 points, I couldn't get any more points scored the rest of the night, and it killed my parlay. But yeah, they played them tough the whole rest of the way after giving up. I mean, I think it was like 16 seconds in or something. They gave up a goal, then they gave up another one like a couple minutes later, and then it was, they played them, even the rest of the way. So, even though they are losing, like I said, I've been taking them a lot of +1.5 in some games and stuff, because you're getting decent money on them and they're playing teams tough. Even though when you really look at the roster, you're like, it's kind of a surprise. You're like, how are they doing this? Because it's not like they got a ton of talent, especially with Bedard out right now.
Setting that culture is what they're doing.
All right, let's get on to our third topic of the evening. Low roster Connors to add. Let's talk about some of this. Toes, difficult to find some of the diamonds in the rough. This time of the year, trying to find some streamers, you're starting to look out there like who's got extra games, who's playing when, what are some recommendations on some guys we should be looking for to possibly pick up, stream in certain situations in the right spots?
Yeah, so I really want to take a look and see out there on Fantrax who was low rostered, that I think is producing at a pretty good clip. And it's funny, I didn't really plan on actually doing this, JT, and that's why we called this segment the Low Rostered Connors, because I found 3 guys with the name Connor in their name.
I know,
and those are the guys we're going to talk about.
Through there. Yep.
Yeah, and this kind of came, so I was putting this together, and I'm like, I had 2 of them, like, well, I got to go find a third Connor now because I didn't even plan on it, but nevertheless, let's talk about him. Connor Murphy. For the Chicago Blackhawks, we just mentioned him. He's got a $4.4 million AAV, is signed through the 25-26 season. Hey, this guy is a Bangers League beefer. He's a beefer, all right? So 8 points in 43 games. That's not that good, right? Not very good at all, only 8 points. But he's already got 100 hits. He's already got 100 blocks. We're halfway through the season, JT. Can you do the math on that, right? He's on pace for 200 hits and 200 blocks.
Absolutely.
Averaging 3.5 fantasy points a game, just hitting and blocking. He's only owned in 14% of leagues on Fantrax. So, everybody needs a defenseman, especially in Bangers League. And Connor Murphy right now in our league, JT, he's out there. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you because I'm playing you this week.
Well, it's just like, you're not going to always get those defensemen that are going to get in there and, score a bunch of points. But, man, you need those guys that are going to get you something every night. And, again, with the blocks and the hits, 3.5 fantasy points a game, that's a solid week for him. If he gets you that a couple times throughout the week, that could be a difference maker in a week.
Yeah, and let's mention the second Connor. We got Connor Garland. Garland really early in the season wasn't getting a whole lot of ice time at all. I'd say lucky to get 9-10 minutes of ice time a night, but lately his ice time has actually increased. He's averaging over 15 minutes a game since the turn of the new year in 2024. He's shooting a ton right now, a lot. He's got 8 points in his last 10 games. He's on power play 2, and he's also sharing a third line with Dakota Joshua. Dakota Joshua, Vancouver as well. I believe they're both in that third line. They're both outperforming where they were actually drafted. And we'll talk about that segment here in a second. But Garland's a guy you should take a look at. 8 points in his last 10 games. He is streaky, but Vancouver's awesome. They're great, man. They're actually those first two lines are so unbelievably good, and then that third line's really picking it up for Vancouver.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time. If you're going to take a chance on some flyers, some streamers, you want to take guys that are on offenses that are producing points. And Vancouver has been scoring a ton lately. So yeah, he's definitely worth it. We got a comment here from our buddy Ryan Martin. Says Beefer question mark Todd Johnson question mark. He likes the Beefer the reference there from Ryan Martin.
Man, well, hey, Martin, if Todd Beefer Johnson, who's from our hometown, was actually in hockey, we all know he'd be playing goalie. And back in the day, we just lay him down in the goal crease. That's it. Just lay him down. My brother always used to say, now Todd's not this big. My brother always used to say, Gale, he's like, why don't sumo wrestlers actually just play goalie? Seriously, why don't they sign him? They just lay him right in the goal crease. They'll stop. They probably have a 9-10 save percentage. Just lay him in there.
Martin says, yeah, he's laughing. He's on same thing. So now let's talk to our last Connor of this group.
Yeah, Logan O'Connor. Okay, so from Colorado, 11 points in his last 10 games. I don't know if this is going to last though, because remember JT, you got Valery Nishushkin, and he actually went on the Players Assistance Program. He actually left from Colorado. He was tearing it up, mainly because he's good at hockey, but two, Arturi Lehkonen. And you guys have all mentioned me say that several times on this podcast. This is our 17th episode. I probably mentioned that 3 or 4 times on this podcast that Arturi Lehkonen's been out since early November, basically all year. Lehkonen's back. He actually is making his debut here this week. He may have even made it. I think he's making it next game for Colorado. That may even be tomorrow. What's that going to do to Logan O'Connor and his production? I'm not sure. But right now, Logan O'Connor is doing all of this. 11 points in his last 10 games. He's not getting any power play time, but he does get line 2 deployment on what is a very explosive Colorado team. So I take a chance on Logan O'Connor.
Yeah, and you figure it might take Logan a little time to kind of get his minutes up and stuff like that. So you might as well take a chance with O'Connor right now, because again, this is a streamer. You can if he starts losing ice time and the scoring goes down, you can always drop him and pick somebody else up. So those are a couple really nice names of guys that super small percentage they owned in Fantrax leagues. So those are guys you can kind of go out there and look at. Let's jump on to our fourth topic of the night. Players who have performed well above their draft position. Toast. We always talk about, hey, this guy was a good value or that guy's a good value or where to kind of draft a guy. We've got some guys that have just been phenomenal this year. And if you got them, you most likely got them in a pretty good spot. So let's jump in there and let's talk about some of these guys that are just way outperforming what we thought they were going to do this year.
I think we talk about Sam Reinhart every single podcast, don't we, JT? Almost every single one.
Pretty much at this point, it's the Sam Reinhart podcast. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we'll have to change the name, but there's a reason for that, because this beautiful man right now, ADP of 104 on Fantrax. He's been top 5 overall in most scoring formats. 34 goals, and guess what? Tonight scored his 35th. I'm looking at my phone right now. His 35th goal, and only his 47th game playing. But he's shooting 27% on the season. Remember, JT, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, I said that's not going to continue.
Yeah, you're right. There's no way. That's going to drop back down to 15%, 13%, somewhere in that range, and it has not.
Screw it. Just go with it. I would say at this point, he's so unbelievably hot. I'd say this guy's going to go ahead and he's going to put at least 55 up this year. And that I'd be shocked at this point now how hot he is that dipped below 20% for the entire season. So Sam Reinhart, again, 104th average draft position. He's top 5 this year in all formats.
Yeah, he's been incredible. Another guy, we've talked about a number of times on this show, a guy that really wasn't fantasy relevant much until this year. Number 2 on your list, Frank Vetrano from Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
Frank the Tank. So Frank the Tank Vetrano for Anaheim, an ADP of 338. Get this,
Woo.
top 15 overall in scoring in most formats. Guy's got 21 goals, 13 assists. Here's what I like about him: 152 shots on goal, 55 penalty minutes, 72 hits, 48 blocks, 18 and a half minutes of time on ice in 47 games. JT, if you and I actually go out on a Friday night with a chip on our shoulder, we want this guy with us, right? I mean,
That's
he's
right.
acting like he's Brady Tkachuk.
I mean, and the numbers he's putting up on Anaheim is one of the things that we were like looking at the beginning here, like who's going to score for that team? What are they going to do? And he has come out of nowhere. I mean, 338. I mean, that's the guy's not even on a roster most of the time. And this guy, he's just absolutely lighting it up this year. If you were lucky enough to pick him up, most people didn't draft him. If you picked him up early in the season, he was your waiver wire winner of the year.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be slowing down either. 7 points in his last 10 games. He's shooting a very good, sustainable 13%. And Anaheim, here's what I like. If you don't have a trade deadline that's come up yet, look at Vetrano's way and try to get him in a trade. Now, again, you may have to overpay a little bit because Frank the Tank's actually doing what he normally doesn't do. But I love Anaheim's schedule, JT, and I know you do, but on those West Coast teams, they play on all those off nights and those Mondays and those Wednesdays and Fridays and Sundays on those non-traditional nights. So there's always room for them on your starting roster. So I love Vetrano, what he's doing. I also love the schedule as well. I say go get Frank the Tank.
Yeah, we were talking about the Flyers earlier. They've got some guys that have really stepped up. I mean, we loved some of the guys coming out, just pure talent wise, it just was like, when were they going to perform? Travis Konechny, ADP 140 on Fantrax. He's been top 25 overall most of the year. He's one of those guys we talked about, when was he going to hit? He finally has.
Yeah, exactly, JT. And hey, good job on the pronunciation. Travis Konechny did a great job there. Here's another mini Brady Tkachuk. I mean, I've said Brady Tkachuk is a standard for any bangers league. I love that. I love the man. This guy, Konechny's got 161 shots on goal, 42 penalty minutes in 48 games, 5 shorthanded goals, man. Is this guy a workhorse or what? I mean, he's only 25 years old. He's definitely he is the leader of that Philadelphia team. And really what we had said, the surprise of the league. And man, Konechny is a guy that most people be salivating to have on a dynasty league or a keeper league because he's just learning this. He's just learning how good he is at being only 25 years old.
Yeah, another guy coming up on the list. We got a few more guys on the list. A guy that burned me the other night in that Blackhawks game. I had him with over a point, and he got 0 in that game, but he's been on fire lately. Give me your guy from Vancouver.
Yeah, Brock Besser. So Brock Besser, ADP of 184 on Fantrax. He's a top 30 player overall, and we just talked about how good Vancouver is. I mean, if you're on Vancouver, you're going to benefit from the players around you. They're an offensive juggernaut, Vancouver is. And Besser, he's a big part of that. 27 goals, 19 assists, 126 shots on goal, and nearly 19 minutes of time on ice in 47 games. Streaky player. But who cares, really, because he's on line one with Pettersson and Miller. He's on power play 1 as well. And right now, he's in the second year of his 3-year, $6.65 million AAV deal. He's going to be 28 years old when it expires. I want the Hawks to get him. All right. So he'd look good, wearing the Hawks sweater. But those are the type of players I believe the Hawks are going to be in line to get to supplement all the young players around them, because guys in the late 20s that come up on that 25-26 season, after that, that's who they're going to want to get to supplement those young players that are all superstars on their team. They're going to be 21, 22, 23 years old. So I love Brock Besser.
Yeah, and they're going to have the money to spend. So that's the other thing, is the Hawks might be able to go out there and give up a little bit more than someone else to bring a guy in. So that he's a guy definitely to keep an eye out on. Number 5 on our list, Charlie Coyle from Boston Bruins, another guy who was way down in that ADP, 369 ADP on Fantrax coming in, but he's actually been a really solid player this year in fantasy.
Yeah, top 60 overall in most scoring formats. And the reason why he wasn't drafted, um, high at all is because everybody thought that Pavel Zacha would actually play in between Pasternak and Marchand on that top line, and it wasn't Zacha, and that stunk for us, JT, because I know we have Zacha in
Yep.
our dynasty league, but Zacha is still a young player, and Charlie Coyle is a bit older. He's a 31-year-old center, and Coyle is having the best season of his career. He's got 17 goals and 21 assists. And he's got 4 game winners as well in 46 games. The guy's still only 65% owned on Fantrax, and I guarantee there's many more serious fantasy players on Fantrax. So I guarantee in ESPN and Yahoo, he's way less than that. He's probably down at 35% in both of those.
Let's move on to topic number 5. Who are we excited for the rest of the way here? We've got, we've kind of talked about, some of the ups and downs over the last couple of weeks. We got some of our performers, some streamers now. What are we excited for kind of moving on? I'll tell you, and I've got to go Homer here because I can't help myself, but I'm excited for the Red Wings.
You should be excited about
Detroit.
them.
They got off to a great start. They had a little bit of a lull there in the middle of the season. You're like, okay, they're coming back to earth a little bit. Then they got the Patrick Kane signing, and it seemed like that kind of gave them a jolt. And I tell you what, I've gotten a chance to watch a lot of their games, live the last 2 weeks. And man, they're playing some good hockey. They're 7-2-1 in the last 10. And they easily could have won every one of those games. They have been in the mix in every game. Every game's just gone down to the wire. The offense is really picking it up, and they're finally getting some solid goalie play. That's really made a big difference for them. It's been huge. Alex Lyon, he's been the guy. 11-6-2, 267 goals against, average. .919 save percentage. I mean, they're 2 points ahead of the Devils right now. Big win the other night. They had a big game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had a real close one about a week ago against Toronto, as they're right there in the mix with all those teams are right bunched together points wise. So I think, and you've talked about it all year, I've been a little weary, but you said, hey, they're making the playoffs. I know this team's going to make the playoffs. I'm starting to definitely feel it. I'm like, this team is going to get back in the playoffs.
They've had some injuries. And they've missed Kane here for the last couple weeks. And guess what they've done without Kane? And Kane was actually almost a point per game player. Patty Kane's looked like Patty Kane since he's actually been in the Red Wings. He looks no different at all, but he's had that lower body injury that's not related to that hip he had surgery on. And what have they done without him? 7-2-1 in the last 10 games. I mean, so that's a playoff team. That's a playoff team once they actually get all of their guns back, and they're going to have a big second half of the season. I think they're starting to believe now, JT. They're actually out of that rebuild. This is the first year where they're actually expected to kind of start doing something, and they're taking advantage. I love the Red Wings. So that's hard for me to say for a Blackhawks fan, but hey, I love the Red Wings because they're in the East. It's not like we're playing the Blues. So
you're not playing them anymore. It's the different division, and it's like I said, it's been hard with all the hate over the years. It's like all my friends being Blackhawks friends, you and all our buddies being Blackhawks friends. My family all from Detroit, so I grew up a Red Wings fan. But it's like, man, you can kind of root for both of them because, man, we've talked about it in the past. Would that just be unreal if these teams ever saw each other in the Stanley Cup Finals? It would be mayhem if the Red Wings and the Blackhawks got to a Stanley Cup Final against each other. It would be awesome.
Well, I'll be telling my wife, if she loves to actually take a big vacation every year, I'd be telling her we're not vacationing in June. I'll tell you that right now. And I'll probably just take off 2 weeks off work
to the finals
and do nothing but actually just watch games. And like you said, go to a game. We'd definitely be there,
absolutely.
JT. Let's end this by telling you who I'm actually excited about. And I mentioned it last time, and I'm usually not excited about this team and the Edmonton Oilers because I think the Oilers are a bunch of wine bags. The Oilers are, it's almost as if they're actually born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They never know how to work hard for about anything. But guess what the Oilers have actually done? They've won 14 straight games. Before the 14-game win streak, they lost 3 in a row. And before that, they'd won 8 straight. So you do the math, that's 22 out of 25. 22-3 in their last 25. They have a comfortable wild card lead right now. But here is the most important part. And I mentioned this the last time, and I'm going to mention it again. Their games have actually gone the under 10 out of the last 14 games they have won. It's went the under on the goals. They have actually went under 6 goals 10 out of the last 14 games, and they've given up 2 or less goals in 12 straight. JT, they've made it over the hump. I think it's kudos to Chris Knobloch, who actually brought in early on in the season when they were actually 3-10-1, whatever it was. Since
Yeah,
Knobloch showed
terrible.
up, they've been the best team in hockey, and they're doing it the right way. I'm pretty excited about the Oilers.
This is a team we talk about every year. Super exciting team to watch, ton of talent, but you just know when it gets to playoff time, they're going to be toast. They're going to get beat. Somebody's going to take them out that shouldn't take them out because they just don't play hard enough defense. They can't win the close games. They can't win unless they're scoring 5 or 6 goals. And it finally looks like we've seen the Edmonton Oilers grow up and mature, and this team has figured out how to win close, low-scoring games, which you thought never would say in the past. You're
I would have said that would never happen, and that would just never happen.
Yeah, exactly. Right? But yeah, they're getting together. Finally, the goalie plays pretty well, and and again, they're not 100% reliant on the Draisaitl and McDavid show. They're not like, hey, you guys go out and score a bunch of points every night, and we'll just kind of hang back. They're actually they are playing more like a team. They're all together, and you got to think that's just going to have to be huge near the end of the year for those guys. Those guys should have a little something in the tank once it comes to playoff time, as opposed to, they've been running circles around everybody all year, trying to score as many points as they can to get people, to keep them in games. So this is a team that I say it every year when we talk about the playoffs. I'm like, who we're taking for a first round bounce? We're like Edmonton. They're going to get upset, and we always bet the other team for the first round or second round. I actually think I'm going to like Edmonton this year. I mean, they're looking good, and you got to say if they continue to play like this, they're going to have to end up being one of the favorites.
Yeah, Stuart Skinner, the 25-year-old goalie, he's a big part of that. I mean, when you got a 25-year-old goalie playing out of his mind like he is, I mean, he's won so many games in a row starting for them. But you got contributors, JT, like Warren Fogle. I'm just looking at the roster right now, just telling you who's actually stepped up. As Warren Fogle's actually stepped up, Matthias Janmark's actually stepped up, Sam Gagne's actually stepped up as well. Cody Cece's played a good role, and Matthias Ekholm actually came over from Nashville, if you guys remember right. This is his first year. He's actually done a good job, and you got Vincent Desharnais has really played well this year. So I wouldn't say they're balanced 1 through 4, but they actually are from 3rd and 4th. They're not dog crap anymore. All right. They're actually serviceable. And that's actually what you want. You get good goaltending, and you got a great defenseman and actually Evan Bouchard. And you have resurgent seasons from guys like Evander Kane as well. And they just signed off the scrap heap Corey Perry. That'll be really interesting. The guy who actually the Hawks had to let go from some type of misconduct. So nevertheless, the Edmonton's rolling. It'll be interesting to see. I'd love for them to see if they can get to 20 in a row. At this point, I think they can do it.
And we got a comment here from Titch41. McLeod is a stud. Now they have the worm. Go Oilers. So that's our buddy. He's loving what they've been doing too. So
yeah, we get a lot of these home league guys actually tuning in. And JT, I tell you what we should do is let's chat briefly here as we wrap up to make our Illinois game. That's why we're going at such a fast pace tonight. It's because we want to actually watch a U of I game. But how about our home league? How you feeling right now?
My team has really struggled to score. I had the Connors injury. I had the Jack Hughes injury. I've just had a bunch of guys go out, and after the hot start for my team, I barely broke 200 points last week. I got smoked. I'm on a little bit of a downward spiral, but I'm still in the mix. I got to get some of these guys back off injury, and then hopefully kind of turn it around for me. But the home league has been tough this year. I mean, everybody right in the mix this season.
Yep. And JT, I'm playing you tonight. You remember when I made all those trades in one day?
Yes,
yeah, I was 4-6 when that actually happened. And right now, I am 9-6, and so I've actually been a winner of 5 straight since that happened. Since I bought a new team, but right now you got Matthew Tkachuk going against me. JT's got 11 points for you tonight. You're up on me 118-91, so I got my work cut out for you. You're desperate right now, trying to actually get in there. We don't have too many weeks left, but Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs need to pick it up tonight. They're playing like crap. But I got these late night guys right now. I got Jeff Skinner. I got Trevor Moore going later on tonight, and I got Joey DeCord and Craig DeSmith going out for my goalies tonight, which I think will both be big goalie wins. So I expect to come out tonight and actually be almost even with you. So, but it's been a fun year. It's a very competitive league.
Yeah, it's been real competitive. And then in our salary cap league, we had a huge comeback the week before. Got a win on Sunday night.
Damn you, Jensen.
We thought we had one. Our buddy Jensen took us out. We got all the way down the last game, and he got a late assist that put him over the top because we were tied all night long. He got a late assist to beat us. If we would have been able to pull that one off, we would have had 4 teams in our league tied at 11-4. At the top of the division. We're now slightly back at 10-5. We're playing another 10-5 team again this week because it's been a really, really competitive league. As Knuckles has kind of moved up to 12-3. He's kind of leading the way as far as the league goes right now. But that, again, real competitive league, a lot of 10-5s, a lot of 11-4s, like we said. But we were, a couple points away from being a 4 or 5 way tie at the top in our salary cap league. So we got to keep fighting there as well.
Yep, and JT, we put up 80 last night on Rocky Like a Hurricane, who's also, I think, tied with us for the that same record in that league. And the good thing is we still got 53 starts left this week. He's only got 39. I believe we're actually going to get him. Kucherov put up 20 for us last night. He's unreal. He's unreal right now. So we're right in the thick of things in fantasy hockey. We only got probably 4 to 5 weeks in most leagues left until we actually make the playoffs. And if it's anything like our home league right now, and before I let you guys go, in our home league right now, I'm going to tell you that Meat Sweats, that's Steve Dietz, actually leads the league with a 10-5 record. Then you got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams at 9-6. I'm one of those. Jeff Daler's one of those. Jeff Frederick's one of those. Corey Jensen's one of those. And you got Crack House. You got John Martini at 8-7. Our buddy John McGlynn at 8-7 as well. So 7 out of the teams are 8-7 or above. Just all bunched up there. And then JT, you're right there, actually 8th place. But you're at 5-10, so you got to get in on points. And right now you're about 200 points out of there of that 6th spot. So not all is actually lost. And you got to.
I know. I gotta crank it up. Like I said, the last two to 3 weeks, my team has really, really struggled to score after just a great start to the year. So I gotta hope my guys pick it up here at the end. And what we've shown in the past, you just got to get in the playoffs. And we always do the last playoff spot is most points scored left. So I gotta figure out a way to get my guys fired up and sneak my way into the playoffs.
So you just figure you'd actually start playing when you play me.
That's why I figured. I figured this is the week. I told the guys this is the big matchup. This is the big rivalry.
You got them in the locker rooms. Yeah. Me and Mike
got to get it going this week.
Me and Mike Sutherland do that actually with our team there in your 2-on-7 football league. We won it all this year. And
congrats! I couldn't believe I didn't win it. I can't believe I didn't get the championship game. I got knocked off the week before, and then you guys, huge. You guys made a lot of off-season moves. Huge to come through and win that league. It's a big money league for us in that one.
Yeah, and let's just say I'm actually the game day coach on that team. I set the lineup every day. Mike's the general manager, and Mike came down during the playoffs as GM into the locker room and made some hell of speeches. I mean, he was great. So hey, thanks a lot, Mike, for all your speeches.
Final word before we kind of cut this thing out and go watch some basketball, Toast.
Yeah, we're going to watch some basketball, Illini basketball. I would say, JT, I know this is a hockey podcast, but could this be the best team that Brad Underwood's ever had? I think that they play like a team. They play like a team. They don't have many holes, and they're very unselfish. And they don't. They look the part. And I don't know a whole lot about basketball other than actually being a fan. I've never played. I've never actually coached, but nevertheless, you can just tell, and they look great.
Yeah, we're. We got basketball coming up. I mean, this is a great time of the year. We got playoff football, hockey, basketball. It's a good time of the year to take in a ton of sports, especially if you're a fan of a lot of different sports. So,
and real quick, JT, we're going to get out of here because we got tip off in 8 minutes. If any bettors out there looking to get on a bet for tonight, Vancouver on the money line at home versus St. Louis. Both backup goalies are actually going. I don't care if it's backup goalies or the third string for Vancouver. I love Vancouver at home versus St. Louis Blues. They're at minus 230. So what you can actually go ahead and do is you find another college basketball game, maybe one on the West Coast like a Santa Clara or somebody like that, maybe at a plus or like at a minus 700, and then find another like a minus 700, put it with it, and get that at even money, and go ahead and make that bet tonight. I would definitely jump on Vancouver money line.
Yeah, I like where your head's at on that. I'm definitely going to jump on them tonight and add it with somebody else for a parlay. So that's going to do it for us tonight. A little bit of a quicker show than we usually do, but like Toast said, we got to get out of here, and our buddy Ryan Martin's going to send it off with an ILLINI. Thanks. He says, good job, fellas. So we'll be heading off to that. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. You've been listening to The Stew with JT Brew here on the Stew channel. We'll talk to you guys next time.
You up on trades and why you move? You ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release. We started with the mock draft and now we making them.